aimed at protecting those who came to the U.S. illegally as children. President Biden cannot believe how badly DACA recipients have been treated by the Democrats. Totally abandoned. Republicans are still working hard. Kathleen?
Thanks, John. Republican Mitt Romney jumping into the Utah Senate race.
Given all that America faces, we feel that this is the right time for me to serve our state and our country.
The former GOP presidential candidate and Massachusetts governor hoping to fill the seat held by retiring Senator Orrin Hatch. And on Wall Street now, the Dow is up 92 points. Fox News, Darren Ballard.
All money managers may seem pretty much the same. But while some money managers may recommend high commission investment products, Fisher Investments avoids them. Some money managers may have hidden and layered fees. Fisher Investments never does. And while some money managers are happy to earn commissions from you, whether you do well or not, Fisher Investments fees are structured so we do better when you do better. In other words, we're structured to be on your side. Maybe that's why most of our clients come to us from other money managers. Talk with us and find out why so many experienced investors are switching to and staying with Fisher Investments. Fisher Investments, clearly better money management. Investments in securities involve the risk of loss. Visit us at FisherInvestments.com to find out what we can do for you.
Seattle's right choice for conservative talk radio. AM 770 KTTH Seattle and 94.5 FM K233BU Seattle.
From the Online Trading Academy studio, this is AM 770 KTTH.
This hour of the Jason Ranch Show is brought to you by Farah.com.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the only morning show you need to get you through your commute, get you ready for your Friday, get you ready for the weekend. You're listening to the Jason Ranch Show on AM 770 KTTH 94.5 FM in the Greater East Side. Got a lot to get to. Only 1 hour left to do it. The warning signs were there to prevent the mass shooting in Florida, but the left wants simply to blame the NRA. We'll also review Black Panther, and we found out it seems shockingly easy for illegal immigrants to vote in the state of Washington. We're going to get to that and so much more. But first, it's time to get your work the right way with the right way traffic, brought to you by the Online Trading Academy.
Just getting word of a crash in Gig Harbor that is blocking all eastbound lanes at Highway 16 at Burnham Drive. Traffic is stacking up from Purdy. Let's see if I can get more information on this. I do have more information on Snoqualmie Pass, so chains required on all vehicles except four-wheel drive. Oversized vehicles prohibited in the westbound direction. Eastbound remains closed, and multiple spinouts are being cleared right now. They're looking at reopening eastbound lanes at 9 o'clock. At least they'll reassess at that point. We've cleared the rest of the accident, so we're just left over with little bits of congestion in all the familiar places coming into downtown Seattle and Bellevue. That's AM 770 KTTH traffic. I'm Tammy Bennett.
Attend a free power trading workshop. Text the word backup to the number 57682 to register for ongoing Bellevue workshops, plus a Muckle Peel workshop on February 21st at the Staybridge Suites. There is so much news happening all around the world and right here at home. It's time to find out what's trending.
What's trending? Big picture.
So the left goes apoplectic about guns and lazily will claim to you that the NRA somehow has blood on their hands for what happened on a couple days ago in Florida, Parkland, Florida, where 17 people were murdered. And they say that the NRA is to blame, as politicians say the shooting happened because of the NRA. They say those things because they have no actual plans, just enemies that they want to put the blame on. Let's understand that this was a preventable mass shooting. And we don't need a new law written for us to actually have gone after this loser, this degenerate Nicholas Cruz. We don't need a new law. We don't even need to reform any current laws. How many more warning signs do you need? How many more warning signs do schools need, do teachers need, do relatives need, and most importantly, do law enforcement officials need in order to get someone on their radar in a meaningful way? CBS News says Broward County Sheriff's Office was apparently notified in February of 2016 of an Instagram post from January of 2016 under the same name, Nicholas Cruz, that he was going to shoot up his school. That according to law enforcement sources talking to CBS News. Cruz was holding a weapon in the photo, and he said he was going to shoot up his school.
Someone came forward to your agency with information about this suspect. What could you legally have done about the fact that he owned a gun?
If he legally owned a gun, we couldn't do anything about arresting him for having a gun, but we could certainly follow up. We could certainly go to visit him, whether he legally owns a gun or not.
Did you do that? Did you do that? Did you do the follow-up visit? I'd be curious to find out about that. And by the way, when you see someone who has a gun who then says, I'm going to shoot up a school, did you check in to see whether or not that gun was legally purchased? You mean to tell me there was nothing you could do? I reject that, Sheriff Israel. BuzzFeed reported that the FBI was aware of a YouTube user with the name, lo and behold, Nicholas Cruz, saying in a post that he was going to become a school shooter. It was reported to the FBI. Here's FBI Special Agent Robert Lasky.
In 2017, the FBI received information about a comment made on a YouTube channel. The comment simply said, I'm going to be a professional school shooter. No other information was included with that comment, which would indicate a time, location, or the true identity of the person who made the comment. The FBI conducted database reviews, checks, but was unable to further identify the person who actually made the comment. We do not know if it's the same person. We did our database checks. We could not positively identify them. We're going back. We're scrubbing the information. We're looking at it again. But I'm not willing to say this time that it was one and the same breed.
I just want to get this clear. I can go on YouTube right now because my name is not on any database that I'm aware of because I haven't broken any law. I haven't threatened to do so. But if I go on right now on YouTube under my name and I say I'm going to shoot up a school, you mean to tell me the only thing that the FBI is going to do is just cross-check it against some database? That's it? Really? That doesn't seem right. This kid was disciplined repeatedly at his schools. He was assigned to a school for children with emotional and behavioral disabilities. He had mental health issues. But let's pretend that this was all due to the NRA. Let's pretend that the Republicans are responsible for this. Schools didn't fail him. Law enforcement didn't fail him. It was Republicans and the NRA that caused this, right? CNN, in their breathless coverage of this, for some reason, they keep reporting that there's no concealed carry law for rifles in Florida because I don't know exactly why they're doing that. That's not relevant to this conversation at all. But I guess they think that's going to shock people? And I don't even know why you would be shocked. I'd be shocked to find out that there is concealed carry for a rifle. Who does that? I keep hearing this stat over and over and over again. 18 school shootings. We've only been in this year for, what, 45 days or so. 18 school shootings. There have not been 18 school shootings. That is not true. If I told you that there was a school shooting today, what would you think happened at that school? What would come to mind? What image would come to mind? Would the image of a fight between several people erupting in a parking lot of a high school where an adult shot another adult, killing him? Would you think that that's a school shooting? Because that's one of the shootings in the 18, according to Everytown for Gun Sense, whatever, the longest, stupidest name of an organization. Would you think about two adult men settling a score at a Michigan school, one using a gun on the other? Neither attended the school, neither worked at the school, and this happened, by the way, after school was done. This happened at night. Would you call that a school shooting? Would you call it a school shooting when a gunshot that was fired off campus happened to, by happenstance, hit a window of a building at Cal State University, San Bernardino? Would you say that is a school shooting? No injuries. Would you say that a guy who was parked in a parking lot in the evening outside of a school that was closed 7 months ago and remained closed ends up using a gun to commit suicide? Would you call that a school shooting? Probably not. And yet that's what was counted in the 18 school shootings in the year 2018. Facts matter, especially when you're going to use those quote-unquote facts to place blame on folks, to create a narrative about a situation that doesn't actually exist, and to try to pass some sort of legislation. Facts matter. Let's find out what else is trending.
What's trending at the movies?
It's Friday. You know what that means? I get to talk movies, and it will easily be the biggest film of the weekend, probably even the year. It is the highly anticipated Black Panther, the latest superhero movie coming from the Marvel Universe, it does not live up to the hype. It is a good movie, and we'll get into that in a second, but it does not live up to the hype. It is a standard superhero movie, and it's suffering from something that's totally beyond its control. Over-the-top movie reviewers who are giving it way more points than it actually deserves, solely because the cast is almost entirely black and because the theme of the film is something that these movie reviewers can get behind.
You're telling me that the king of a third-world country runs around in a bulletproof catsuit? Why don't you ask him yourself? Because he's right outside. Bingo.
I give to you the Black Panther.
Black Panther follows the character T'Challa, played by Chadwick Boseman, as he returns home to the fictitious African nation of Wakanda so that he can become king after the death of his father, but his position as king is quickly threatened by his cousin, played brilliantly by Michael B. Jordan.
Serving justice to a man who stole your vibranium and murdered your people. Justice your king couldn't deliver.
I don't care that you brought Claw. Only reason I don't kill you where you stand is because I know who you are.
This is a good movie, but it is just a good movie. It is not a great one. It is not a masterpiece. It is not, to paraphrase Pete Travers in Rolling Stones, something you've never seen before. You have seen this story before. It's like most Marvel superhero movies. What you haven't seen is something so political, which I didn't find to be distracting at all, nor have you seen a primarily black cast, which is awesome to see and extremely meaningful to a whole bunch of people. But that doesn't automatically qualify this film to be called brilliant. It's not even the best Marvel movie. The CGI was pretty distracting and bad at points. Up until the final battle scenes, the action, the fights were kinda underwhelming. They ended up ditching the trademark humor that the last several Marvel movies have used really, really effectively, and about halfway through the movie, I started to wish that Michael B. Jordan was back Black Panther instead, because he is so good in this movie. He is the star. When he is on screen, you look to him. He steals every scene he's in. But he's not the only one. There are a lot of standouts in this. Danae Gurira as the fearless and loyal general is phenomenal. The whip-smart and utterly lovable sister of T'Challa, played by Letitia Wright, she is phenomenal. Should you see this movie? Yes, you should see this movie. It is good and I recommend it. But over-the-top social justice warriors who are masquerading as movie reviewers, they are doing this movie such a tremendous disservice by pretending it's better than it actually is, simply because they like what the movie stands for. You can like what the movie stands for all you want, and I think it's important we can have that conversation, but that does not mean it is a brilliant movie. It is not. It is a very good movie, but it's kind of par for the course for a lot of the Marvel superhero films that you see. I do, however, recommend it. It is a good film. Just go in there understanding that the bar should not be as high as a lot of these movie reviewers are putting it. Black Panther is out now, and you know what else is out now? You trying to get to work. Let's get you there on time with Right Way Traffic.
Looking for movement in this accident in Gig Harbor. Unfortunately, I'm not seeing it yet. Eastbound 16. They're calling it Burnham Drive, but it's actually beyond Burnham Drive. It's closer to Rosedale, but I don't have a camera in the area, so all I'm seeing is the backup, and that backup is solid all the way back to 302. All eastbound lanes are shut down past Burnham. We'll get you an ETA for reopening as soon as we have it. And again, on Snoqualmie Pass, they're looking at a 9 o'clock reopening for eastbound lanes of Snoqualmie Pass, which are closed at the moment. Vehicle fire in Tumwater just reported southbound 5 at 93rd, and an accident just cleared from North Gateway westbound at Corliss Avenue. Traffic brought to you by Walgreens. Switch your Medicare Part D prescriptions and start saving with copays as low as $0 on select plans with Tier 1 generics. Walgreens, trusted since 1901. AM 770 KTTH Traffic.
Seattle's own Michael Nedved.
We have a tendency in the United States, when something terrible happens, we have to do something disease.
Weekdays, noon to 3.
You got to do something, you got to do it immediately, you've got to make an immediate resolution, otherwise nothing will ever get done.
Passes right now. Snoqualmie Pass eastbound is still closed, but they've moved the closure back to the North Bend truck stop there at milepost 34. They don't want anybody on that stretch all the way up to 47. Still looking to open that up in about 45 minutes. Again, the travel times across the map are pretty decent and manageable. This report brought to you by Budget Batteries, offering you the best service, lowest prices on batteries. Free battery testing by skilled techs, 11 Puget Sound locations, budgetbattery.com.
860.
This is Seattle's Morning News. Dave Ross with Colleen O'Brien. So once again, we're embroiled in a discussion over how to prevent school shootings. Somebody who's pretty close to this is Shannon Watts, who founded a group called Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America. This began as a Facebook group after Sandy Hook. Shannon?
That's right. I started a Facebook page thinking I would have an online conversation with other mothers around this issue. And very quickly, I was connected to people I didn't know all over the country, and it became an offline movement.
The governor of Florida has now said that everything's on the table. He doesn't care what the NRA thinks. They will examine ways to try and prevent this from happening in the future. But I think it's fair to say that the NRA has been your main opponent in this. What exactly do you think could pass politically to prevent this kind of thing in the future?
I think it depends on where you live. I mean, Congress has shown that they wouldn't even ban bump stocks after 600 people were shot and killed in Las Vegas. So I have little faith that we can get them to pass good legislation. This Congress, we need to get a new Congress at the midterms. That said, there's a dangerous piece of legislation going through Congress right now. It's really the NRA's dream. It's called concealed carry reciprocity. We have to stop that bill from passing, or we'll see a lot more gun violence in this country. But at the state level, we're making significant headway, both in killing the NRA's bills. We've killed about 90% of them every year for the last 5 years, and passing good bills. Passing bills like disarming domestic abusers, or closing the background check loophole, or red flag laws that allow police to disarm dangerous people. So states is really where we can make a lot of political headwind right now.
Let's talk about red flag laws. That was referred to by the Broward County Sheriff. If you see something on Facebook that is sufficiently creepy, call the police, and then the police will visit the person. But then what happens? What are the police allowed to do if they infer somebody might commit a crime like this?
That's exactly the issue. In Florida, there's no law that allows police to disarm people who seem to be dangerous to themselves or others. We've passed these red flag laws now in 3 states, California, Oregon, and Washington. And what they allow families and police to do is to get a judge to put a temporary restraining order in place that allows them to remove the guns of someone who seems to be dangerous to themselves or others. And this is an effective way to step in and break the chain of whatever has been happening.
I have not heard of that being exercised. I mean, just the other day we had a case where a young man was arrested in Everett after his grandmother turned him in, and they found a gun and diaries planning a school shooting. But that didn't require any special law. The cops were invited into the home, and there was clearly probable cause there to interdict what he was about to do. Go ahead.
This law would have allowed that relative, if they had decided to utilize this law, it would have allowed that relative to call the police and to get a temporary restraining order to remove those guns before that shooting happened.
Right. Okay, so in short of that then, you're not calling then for gun registration or the banning of particular types of guns, anything like that?
We are not in any way opposed to the Second Amendment. Many of our volunteers are gun owners, or they're married to gun owners. This is about restoring the responsibilities that go along with gun rights.
Do you accept this idea that's been expressed also by the sheriff and by others, that if you have someone who's determined to shoot up a school, there's really nothing you can do but train to be prepared for the aftermath?
No, I do not subscribe to that at all. It's sort of ludicrous. I mean, if you look at all of our peer nations, other high-income countries, they are not struggling with this problem. And the reason is they don't have 300 million guns and very few gun laws. There are other countries with many guns, but they also have strong gun laws, and they are also not having these kinds of shootings. The idea that this is somehow an act of nature instead of an act of man, right? Our inaction, our inability to pass stronger gun laws in this country is very cynical, and I don't believe the American public is buying it.
But again, you're not calling for the complete banning of assault weapons.
We do not talk about an assault weapons ban right now because the mass shooting, obviously assault weapons put the mass in mass shooting, but the reality is the vast majority of violence in this country, gun violence, is committed with a handgun. So when we talk about these shootings, we're talking about them because someone used a semi-automatic rifle and was able to kill many people at once. But 93 people are shot and killed every day. That's many, many mass shootings. The reality is that the gun lobby is very good at getting around assault weapons bans. During the last ban, they were able to create the exact same weapons with very small, minor modifications and still have them be readily available. So when we look at the data, when we look at the research, it points us to specifically handgun violence.
You talk about gun responsibility. Do you believe we have a responsible gun culture in this country?
I don't believe we have one anymore. I think the NRA lobbyists have chipped away at that. They have opposed all legislation that would require, for example, adults to responsibly store their firearms. And we have really just sort of left it up to the individual as to what we find acceptable. And, you know, if you look in the 80s at drunk driving, someone would kill their family before drunk driving laws, and everyone sort of step back and say, oh, you know, that's really horrible, but that person has suffered enough. And then Mothers Against Drunk Driving came along and said, wait a minute, if we don't hold these people accountable for making this decision, then this is going to continue to kill innocent people. You know, they stepped in and passed laws and cut drunk driving almost in half in a decade. And in many states, if you leave a loaded gun on your kitchen counter and a child gets a hold of it and shoots themselves or someone else, there's absolutely no law holding you accountable for that. Some states have laws, but they're typically misdemeanors and a $400 fine. So I don't think we've caught up around the responsibilities that go along with gun rights in this country.
Why do you think the NRA enjoys such robust support, even though, from what you're telling me, you don't believe they've really promoted a responsible gun culture in this country?
Well, you know, the modern day NRA is not your grandfather's NRA. They have turned into a lobbying and marketing organization with their $350 million budget. They don't need any members to continue to advance their dangerous agenda. They just need this budget they have from gun manufacturers. And that's really what they've become, is a shill for gun manufacturers. They are not a hunting and gaming organization anymore.
Do you think you can defeat them on this?
Well, we have a 90% track record of beating them in state legislatures over the last 5 years, killing bad bills like guns in K-12 schools, permitless carry, expanding stand your ground, guns on college campuses. And on top of that, we're passing really strong laws. In 25 states, we've passed laws that disarm domestic abusers. We've closed the background check loophole in 8 states, bringing the total to 19. So we may not have the budget they have. We may be the David to the NRA's Goliath, but I think we're doing pretty well.
Shannon Watts is the founder of Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America. Shannon, thank you very much.
Thank you.
8:24, and that's traffic time, brought to you by Wrench Mobile Mechanics. Here's Chris Sullivan.
And again, we are at an all-stop on eastbound Highway 16, trying to get into the Gig Harbor area. This crash that we have that includes a rolled-over big cab truck carrying with a trailer behind. It's not quite to Rosedale, and just after Burnham, and it's causing, at last check, let's look here, we're at about a 3.5 to 4 mile backup. No one is getting by this, so you're stuck. My best advice is eject from 16 where you can and take Peacock Hill Road into downtown Gig Harbor, then pop back on at Pioneer. At least you'll be moving. You might save yourself some time. Now, the rest of the map, we're still looking at 40-minute drives from Federal Way to Seattle. That's good. 45, Puyallup to Renton. That's really good. About 50 or just under from Everett to Seattle or Everett to Bellevue. That's a positive number. Renton to Bellevue is looking at about 30 minutes, so we've actually shaved some time there. And looking at the Lake Bridges, both of them in both directions are looking good. This report brought to you by Wrench Mobile Mechanics. Car trouble, Wrench brings the shop to you. All makes, all models, guaranteed cheaper than the dealer. Go to GetWrench.com. Save time, save money, drop the shop. GetWrench.com.
Seattle continues to enjoy a break from the precipitation, but it'll be back over the weekend. We'll have a little bit of snow on Sunday morning. We'll have sub-freezing temperatures on Monday morning. Right now at the Carter Subaru Studio, 42 degrees. And coming up, reporter Hannah Scott updates us on Governor Inslee's longtime plan to institute a carbon tax. This is Cairo Radio.
A national perspective on Seattle's homeless crisis.